Hey, and welcome to The Solid Verbal. Now would be a perfect time to consider subscribing. Yeah, that little subscribe button for year-round premium college football content. That's it. Here's the video. Enjoy. Subscribe. Look, I don't actually want to go back in time and ask you what your initial reaction was. It doesn't matter. There's already been so much since then. What is your current state of mind with regard to where the sport stands in this moment? Like, who are the winners? Who are the losers? Is it a good thing? Is it not a great thing? Like, it's very easy to say this is what's going on and this is why it's going on. But then take it another step forward and say, here's how I feel.
Well, if you're in the Big Ten and the SEC, you've won. And if you're not in the Big Ten and the SEC and you're not Notre Dame, I don't know if you've lost, but things aren't looking real good.
Right.
And you've got to figure out something that you can do that will make you valuable. Because like the Big Ten, the Big 12 and the Pac-12, both leagues are about to do new TV deals. Something needs to happen there. I don't know what, whether it's a merger, whether it's one raid the other, vice versa, but something needs to happen to create a strong number 3 kind of league. And the ACC, I say number 3 for the other one because I do think, because of the money's just gone up in general, if you get the strongest of the Big 12 and the Pac-12 together, that's a league that's going to make more money than the ACC. And the ACC schools are just going to be sitting there going, what do we do? Because they're stuck. They're stuck because of that grant of rights. And I do think they're going to try to get out of it because they're staring down the barrel of 14 years of this. If you're Clemson, if you're Florida State, if you're North Carolina, if you're Miami, you're looking at that going, we could be in a much, much better run league than this. And
sure,
we just need to figure out how to do it. So that's where all of them are at. Is it good for the sport? Probably not. Is there a way that it can be? I don't know, good for the sport, but good for us, the viewer? Yes. I think there's a way that it can be. Because what the SEC and the Big Ten are creating are a bunch of blockbuster matchups. It's interesting. I was going through, for my mailbag that runs on Thursday at The Athletic, somebody asked me to predict what game College Game Day will hit each week. And so I'm going through the schedule the other day. You know what? There's a lot of weeks where there's like one good game, 2 good games that you're super excited about. That's not going to be the case once this all comes together. Like, every week's going to have 3 or 4 games that you're like, whoa, that sounds pretty awesome. So that part will be good. But I do worry about them chasing off a lot of fans by just saying your school's irrelevant, you don't matter. And I think there's a way that they can not do that. But they have to not be greedy up front and understand that it can make them more money in the long run on the postseason by including everybody still. Find a way to include everybody. It doesn't mean automatic bids for every single conference champion. Right. It doesn't mean anything like that. But have some automatic bids for conference champions. Have a path into the playoff for whatever that third league is, whatever that fourth league is, and even on down into into the Sun Belt, into Conference USA. Have a path into the playoff. Don't say, oh, it's going to dilute the play. It's not. It's going to make everyone more interested for the entire season. And so that I hope they think about, because if they want, let's say Kevin Warren and Greg Sankey wanted to, they could just say, well, we're the only people that matter. So the postseason will be between the Big Ten and the SEC, and that's going to be that. Well, that's not going to be fun for anybody else. And that's not going to make anybody else want to watch your games during the regular season. So if you'd like to keep Michigan, Ohio State interesting to everybody and the Iron Bowl interesting to everybody, then have a path for Oklahoma State or TCU or Oregon State or Washington State to at least think at the beginning of the season, if I have a great year, I have a chance to play in the playoff. So I want to ask you, Dan,
sure,
as an Oregon person, who would you rather cast your lot with right now? The remaining 9 members of the soon-to-be Pac-10. Let's say the Big Ten is not an option right now.
Sure.
Do you want to stay with the group you're with and then try to get somebody else?
Right.
Do you want to say, hey, Washington, Colorado, Utah, you guys want to go join up with Oklahoma State and TCU and UCF and BYU? What would you rather see them do?
So I have sort of a romantic dream scenario that you can absolutely shoot down for whatever reason. So Oregon likes to tout itself as like, our tradition is that we don't have tradition, right? That like innovation and doing things our way in a new way is the Oregon tradition, which I think is
actually
great.
Kind of Big 12. Very Big 12 of them.
Sort of Big 12 of them. They lose their coach every 4 years. That's just the reality of being an Oregon fan. And usually it doesn't work out for those coaches once they leave Oregon. But my perfect storm would be Oregon going like in a weird semi-independent, like to bundle with 3 or 4 other teams and just make deals with various conferences and a la carte it to some sort of interesting, and you'd have to bundle with some big teams. You know, you'd have to go to like...
This is Oregon over the top is what we're talking
it's
about.
OTT
This is
Oregon.
is Hulu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And so Oregon goes to Notre Dame, Washington, and Stanford, or something like that. Big markets, big brands, and says, why don't we make deals with the Big 12, the ACC, and the Big 10? And why don't we go to Apple? Why don't we go to YouTube TV? Why don't we go to all of these places and ask for $15 million from each of them? Now, Notre Dame can go bigger than that, obviously.
Right.
Notre Dame maybe is going to, build its own side deals outside of side deals. But to me, as an Oregon fan, I want Oregon to beat up on West Coast teams. I want them to beat the brains out of USC every year and Washington out of every, I want that because it's familiar and it's what college football is to me as somebody from Southern California. So that would be my dream scenario in which Oregon could play a few West Coast teams and then play one year they play North Carolina and Clemson and Boston College and, Wisconsin and Purdue. And so they sort of lean into that national brand thing without being just another team in the Big 12 or some sort of mega Pac-12
So they're
Big 12.
scheduling essentially, they're creating a mini conference.
Yeah.
And then scheduling home and homes against their old conference foes.
Yep. That's the zag that I would do.
It doesn't have to be their old conference foes. It could be San Diego State. It could be, I got you. I kind of like that. I like that. And I think Oregon and Washington could pull that off. You know who I think would love to join them in something like that?
Who's that?
Clemson and Florida State.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the zag. That's the zag that you have to sort of get creative with TV contracts. The scheduling stuff is weird. And then you're like, what do you do with the other 20 sports, right? What do you like? That where it becomes a little more difficult.
West Coast Conference, baby. Go beat up Gonzaga.
Right. You join, you have like some sort of mega Mountain West, or they join the Pac-12, Big 12 merger or whatever. That's what I would do if I were Oregon. I would actually try to leverage that sort of awareness and Nike and that wherever Oregon would go, yes, North Carolina State, Oregon, Wolfpack fans would love to see that. That'd be like a dream matchup for everybody that doesn't necessarily get to have that matchup all the time. That's what I would do, but that's different. And that would take some elbow grease.
Well, and the postseason part of it would be
and then there's the postseason part.
the other piece.